There we go. All right, so I mentioned once before, I'll go ahead and mention it again. I'd like everybody to take this quick straw poll over here, just in case we need to consider moving our cataloging meeting from the second Monday to the first Monday. And I want to get as many people as possible, so just go ahead and point your browser in that direction. Take that some time for me, if you would.
John, will you be
Yes.
sending that straw poll out to the cataloging listserv after the meeting?
Yes, I will. That's one thing that
Okay.
will go out along with a couple of other things, I think. I'll go ahead and put this in the chat here too. All right. So I just wanted everybody to be kind of aware of a new focus that the mentors have been, focusing on. And that is we are looking over, at least we made a big push recently, to look over the new bibs of the catalogers that are assigned to each particular mentor. And I wanted to bring it up here because if anybody is unaware or not sure who their mentor is, first thing, it is listed on the cataloging contacts sheet, and I'll show you how you get there. That's over here on the Sage cataloging page. The cataloging contacts are right here, and that's just a downloadable spreadsheet. And when it comes up here, everybody is listed here in order of library, and you can see this column right here shows who your mentor is. And the point of the mentor is that if you're having trouble with anything, there are resources available for you. Not only just the printed materials that are available on the website, which we're going to be adding to shortly, but also the contact information for your mentor is here on the sheet. So please communicate with your mentor if you are having trouble with any particular items or any particular type of items. We don't pretend, the mentors that is, we don't pretend to know everything, but we are committed to help people who need help because we all have the same goal of having a consistent, coherent catalog for all of our patrons, as well as becoming better catalogers ourselves. So please make use of that. As well as if your mentor contacts you, just saying, hey, I noticed I was looking over some things and wanted to help you with some things because either some things aren't correct or whatnot. Please don't take it personally. Just realize that what the ultimate goal is. So we're not being mean people. We just want to help everybody be better catalogers and help our catalog be as good as it can be. So, and as I understand, Beth will be scheduling some one-on-one trainings with some folks that have reached out indicating they would like some personalized training. And so I don't know if you've set any of those up yet, Beth, or if those are in the queue yet, or what's going on. But go ahead.
I have not. So to be set up.
To be set up. So watch for that. And I'm not sure if any of those materials from those trainings will be available, or if it's just kind of like a sit down with one person and focus specifically on their needs. Probably that's what that's going to be, I would guess. Speaking of trainings, we do want to address some of the things that we will be tackling for folks later on. We will talk in a minute about some things with the web client. Are we still doing, Beth, are we still doing drop-in trainings for web client?
Yes, that still is the plan. Busyness has caused the delay of some of those, but I'm going to be sending out a doodle poll for some trainings towards the end of the month. I mean, I'll send out the doodle poll this week, but we're trying to schedule some at the end of February into March.
All right. Hopefully some folks are getting into the web client and finding all the fun surprises that are hidden into the the web client. Some things, at least from my experience, work better, and then some things don't work so well. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But before we get to there, we want to talk about something that the mentors have been tackling for months on end. And there was a original committee set up of John George and Anna and Lori, as I recall.
Hey, John.
Yeah, go ahead, Beth.
Before we pour into that, I see a message in the chat that Lori says we should approve the December minutes.
Oh, the December minutes. Yes, indeedy. Let me go find those real quick. Thank you, Lori, for reminding me. I would have just gone right past it. Okay. Let me go find them on... I believe Heather did them for me, right? Cataloging committee minutes. December 3rd, 2018. Alrighty, let's see. Since I did not send these out prior to the meeting, I may have way back in December. I'll give you a chance to read through them.
This is Lori, and it's not exactly questioning the minutes since I did not attend that meeting, but I was wondering if the 505 indexing has been confirmed as working, Beth, and then also the logging in problem, has that been resolved?
The 505T is indexed and working correctly. I have not heard any recent problems of logging in. That was more of a logging in to Evergreen from an iPhone, I believe.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
John, do you have any more on that? John George, that is. John, you there? I see he's there. I don't hear you, though. Oh, yes. You appear to be muted. Uh-oh, I hope I didn't mute you. Mine says that you are unmuted, so do you just want to... Do you want to give us something in the chat just on that? Are they still having mobile login issue problems? No updates that I know of without upgrading to 3.18. Go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, I was just going to confirm that as well. There's a possibility that John and I are going to be undergoing some training in order to do upgrades from 3.1.7 to 3.1.8 and 9 so that we can get some of these fixes sooner than later. So we'll have more information on that later.
All right. And just to confirm, the staff client will still be operational all the way till 3.2. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. So even when we do these updates, we'll still be okay to use the staff client. So don't panic, any of you folks that have not used the web client yet. Okay, so back to the minutes here. Web client discussion training. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. This was basically just kind of taking a cursory look at some of the things in the web client, as I recall. Did anybody else have any other questions or concerns or anything regarding the December minutes? Oh, Lori says, hey, suddenly all of you sound muted. Anyone else having a problem hearing? Is everybody hearing me okay? Oh, Lori says fixed. Okay. I'm assuming that y'all would say something if you're just hearing crickets. Okay, so anybody else have questions regarding the minutes, December minutes?
The minutes look good to me.
All right. Do we need to formally approve the minutes? I don't know. They're good by me.
I think traditionally we have formally approved them.
We
yes.
have formally approved the minutes? Okay, we will. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
All right. Do we have a second?
I second. This is Beth.
All right. All approved. Say aye or type aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay. Do we have any opposed? Hearing nothing, the minutes are approved. All right. So go ahead and close that. Close that. Too many things open is what I have. Okay, that is my old agenda, I believe. Okay. All right, so let's head on into our introduction of the series documentation. As I was saying, the committee was assigned to take a look at what are our procedures and policies regarding how we catalog series in Sage, and an attempt was made basically to get everybody on the same page and try and correct some of the inconsistencies that we were seeing in Sage. And so Anna, doing a lot of the work, has hot off the press just compiled the series documentation that I'm going to just introduce to you right now. And eventually it's going to be posted within the next couple days or so here on the cataloging page. Over here, I'm guessing, Beth, over here on the resources page for folks to look at. And that's also one of the things that I'll be emailing out to folks. So let's bring that up. And we're not going to necessarily do any go through any training right now. Right now, that's not the purpose. We will be scheduling some trainings to go through these various parts in the table of contents you can see here, because there is some really complex, complicated stuff that caused quite a bit of discussion over the past few months. But I will just go through right now. I'll go through the table of contents for you, and so you'll kind of get an idea of what's in this.
John, before we do that, can I just make a few general comments
By all
about
means.
the document?
Sure.
So one, again, we're not going to go through the actual training today. Just briefly talk about the document, and I just want everyone to be aware that we did create this document for all catalogers. That is, it should be accessible as a tool for both beginners and those just beginning to catalog, and those who are more advanced catalogers. And so so you'll see with the contents there that there's some basic information, distinctions between traced and untraced series, the different forms of traced series, and as well as information about formatting, punctuation, abbreviations, etc. And I think it's good, even though advanced catalogers may already be familiar with some of these basics. It's really important. We would really like everyone to be taking a look at this document. One, because some things may have changed since the time that catalogers, even advanced catalogers, right, were originally trained on series. But then also, just because of all of the inconsistencies in the catalog, it can be difficult to remember what the best practices are. So it's a good idea to go through even the basic stuff as well. If you're an advanced cataloger, I think everyone can. It can serve everyone, and also just that since not everyone actually attends these cataloging meetings, and not everyone has received the emails about the SageCat emails. If you are attending this meeting and there are other catalogers at your particular library, it would be great if you mention that this document is available, and encourage them to take a look at it as well. And I guess if you're scrolling down, well, one thing I did want to mention is if you are printing it out, so it's going to get posted as a PDF, and we're going to also try and post it as HTML. But if you do end up printing out this PDF version, notice that there are a number of things highlighted in color. So it's going to be, if you do have access to a color printer, it's going to make the document a lot easier to go through than if you have to print it out in black and white. And as John said, so there's, beyond the basics, if we go back to the table of contents, there's a lot of special cases in series, from split series to crossover series. Some of the instances might be quite straightforward, but sometimes this stuff can get extremely complicated. So one, we've provided a lot of examples in the document. Hopefully those documents will give you a framework for kind of thinking through the different problems and issues that come up in series. But certainly we want people to still ask the mentors, because it's hard to account for all of the variations and all of the different kinds of problems that can come up in addressing series. So still contact the mentors. Again, there's a lot of work to be done in the catalog, cleanup work. So even though the document says, pay attention to what you already see in the catalog, a lot of times, especially in the beginning right now, you're going to see a lot of confusing things in the catalog. So you're probably going to have to reach out to the mentors even more. We've also included information on retrieving series information, and also distinctions between graphic and manga as series and regular series. There's still a lot of problems in terms of the way that those items get cataloged. And there's also, we've also made some changes to some of the way the procedures for cataloging series. So it's definitely worth reading through the entire document. Another thing, I guess if we go to, John, can you pull up the catalog itself? Some of you may have noticed already, and we've tried to account for this in the document, that Beth has worked some magic, and before, if you recall, if there were multiple 800 fields or 8xx fields in a record, they would only display, like all of them would only display at the very bottom of the record. And only the first one in the series of the 8xx's would display in that top portion of the record. Oops, that John just moved away from. But now, what will happen is that right there where it says search for related items by series. So if there are multiple, if the item is part of multiple series, you'll actually see all of that information displayed at the top of the record. And we're also trying to get it so that if in the search results, if we go back to that page, that then all of the series information also displays on that page as well. But Beth is still working on that, so we're not sure that that's gonna be possible. But at least on the record itself, there'll be better visibility for multiple items that are part of multiple series. And with regard to training, again, as John said, that this document is going to get posted on the web, and it's going to get sent out to the cataloging email list. But then we're also going to offer training that's probably not going to be until probably early on in March. I know I have the last, if we continue to do trainings on Thursday, that last Thursday in March, I have an all-day training on patrons with mental illness. So that's not going to be possible. So we're probably looking to March for the series training, and hopefully people will have a chance to read through the document before that training. And what would be really great is if people also, if they have questions, in particular questions about, like, sort of complicated questions about series, if you could send that to the mentors ahead of time. As you'll see when reading through the document, a lot of times figuring out series information requires some research and sometimes lengthy discussion. So the more questions that we have prior to the training, the easier it'll be to address those in the training, and the more questions and issues we'll be able to address in that training.
As a side note, this is Beth. One of the other things that the mentors discussed is for particularly problematic series. We talked about putting a document up on the SageLib website that would give some numeration order to a particular series that there's conflicts out there. So that's something coming in the future too.
Back up back up a little more, John. Yeah, here. No, sorry, back up a little bit. There we go. This is one example where you can even see from this example how messy it is if we try and account for all of the series information, all of the differences in series information that one can retrieve from different sources. So we've tried to kind of simplify that a little so that it's easier for cataloging and for patrons as well. All right, that's all.
This document is wonderful. I'm really glad that we've gotten this far on it.
And it says, John says he's muted, and I'll just add something. Sorry, John, that also as catalogers take a look at this document and begin to use it as a tool, please feel free to give us feedback on the document itself. Obviously, we want to make sure that it's something that the information is accessible and clear to the people who are using it. So if there's any way that we can improve that, make things more accessible, please let us know.
Also, John is, go ahead. John is still muted. He's working on it. So we're going to try.
Did you want to talk about more of the changes to I think that was next on the list, right? Changes to the display, record displays.
Well, you had already mentioned the results list, trying to get all the series to display on there. Something else that's not displaying on the results side is the sub-series. I noticed on this River of Fire, the Warriors, the subtitle is not displaying. So obviously we'll work on getting all of the fields to display. Since this one, it has Vision of Shadows and it's not displaying on the results list. I was going to have John try searching for Warriors Vision of Shadows to make sure it was searching both the series and sub-series, but I can test that later. Yeah, John was indicating that it's not an example of multiple series, but we do have some in the catalog. I'm not familiar enough with the series to know which titles are under two different.
Well, I could give you, if you want, if you're looking for one, let's see. Well, you could go ahead and
Am I back?
Oh.
Anybody hear me?
You are? Yes, I can hear you, John.
are we still trying to find examples of multiple series? Are we moving on? I wasn't sure if we were just trying to fill up some space
Oh,
there.
okay.
Um,
Can everybody hear me?
yes.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. Hey, I'm back. Oh, sorry about that, folks. I went on a big tear about Robert Cray, and I thought I was being super witty, and nobody heard any of it. That's, wow,
Oh no.
so frustrating. Okay. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm not sure what happened there, but I heard all of your discussion, and I just wanted to point out a couple of things about the series document. But first, did that make sense? What I was typing, that this was a example of something else that we changed regarding the display, and that's the fact that subfield P is now displaying in the series here, and so it's now clickable and searchable.
And I think it's best pointed out, even though it's displaying in the record itself, it's not displaying in the list,
Right.
in the search results.
Yeah, and the search results right here. I don't have an example handy of multiple series, but we already covered that.
Oh,
Go ahead.
And sorry, just since we're on that, if you'll see the next item there, what does that say? The Raging Storm. The only reason why we're seeing a subtitle there is because it's actually formatted differently.
Right, so if I go on here, you'll see that is all a part of subfield T. Now, I'm not familiar with this particular subseries, but then since subfield P is displaying, this would then become subfield P. Is that what I'm understanding?
And in with this particular series, and this gets addressed in the document, some series have the subfield where they are using a comma, but in this particular one, the authorized format does have Warriors, and then Vision of Shadows is in a subfield P. So this record is actually incorrect in its formatting.
Right, and then
even though it's displaying.
Yeah, an example of corrections we need to make.
Right, and as always happens,
I posted 2 in the chat, and apparently my microphone's now working too. So yay!
Yeah. So anytime you kind of get everybody on board and say this is what the standard is, there always is, of course, cleanup work that has to happen after that to get everything in accordance with that standard. Oh, Christmas in Camelot. Is that what you're talking about? Christmas in Camelot?
Yes, that as well
one,
as yeah. There's a couple of them.
Okay. Yeah, I can pull that up really quickly. Christmas in Camelot and is the title, right? And it's a part of Magic Treehouse.
Yep.
And it's also a part of the Merlin Mission series.
Right.
I think we still had some. Yeah, you can see the one series displaying here. But if we go inside,
both of them are on the left-hand side.
Right.
On the prior page.
Yes. So numeration is a different thing that we talked about, so don't let that throw you.
Yeah.
So you got these two here, and then if you go back, as John is saying, on the left-hand side here, both of these are displaying here in the personal series, and they are clickable, of course. So hopefully that'll be much more helpful for patrons and for front desk staff looking up series for patrons. I know it will be for me. If we go back, yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of cleanup, I know that Beth sent out a link to where we have a Google Doc to add series that need cleanup, and I'm not sure if that went out to everyone or if it just went out to the mentors. But that's certainly something that we're trying to compile a list of things that need serious cleanup and then eventually get to that. So so if you do see series that are still very messy, please also send that information to the mentors so we can get that on the list of things to clean up.
Yes, yes, indeed. I was thinking the same thing myself. I'm not sure if that was a SAGE cataloging committee email, if that was a mentor's email. Do you remember?
It was only sent to the mentors initially. If we want to open it up to the cataloging listserv, I can certainly do that.
Well, I think as people become more and more familiar with our series documentation, and everybody kind of gets more in the same vein as what we're doing with series, I think we could consider that, because we definitely can use their help finding series that need to be fixed. So. I just wanted to point out this part here. I didn't know if everybody was familiar with the priority list for where we find series information, that is. I think this is particularly important, that we go in order here and that we are checking the Library of Congress authorities first, checking existing SAGE authorities before we start going outside, because we don't want to start conflicting series information accidentally, so to speak. But we'll be talking about that a little bit more when we get trainings set up for folks. Oh goodness, I don't even want to approach graphic. Go ahead, Anna.
Also, just on a side note to that, because just to make sure that everyone is aware, again, we'll go into this more in the training, but just so that everyone is aware that that LOC is no longer creating series authority records, and so we are seeing in more of like the new items, series information not included in records that are being imported, and so it's really important to check that series information, and you might not find it in Library of Congress. You might have to go to one of these other outside sources to even figure out if the item is part of a series. And it would be great if people just became a little bit more systematic about checking, quickly checking to see if an item is part of a series, even if no series information is actually listed in the record.
Right, and especially when it comes to numeration too, because you won't find numeration for series in the LOC authorities that you do find. The ones that are there don't have existing numeration, and so that in particular, these other sources are necessary for. And one last thing, my favorite sentence in this entire document is up here and says, special cases or why series can be a cataloging nightmare. I wholly concur with that. So anyway, that's that. Let's take a look at our agenda here. We talked about the two main display changes already, the subfield P and the multiple series statements. And we don't have a whole lot of time left, but the reason I put web client issues on the agenda today is if folks are trying out the web client, I don't want them to run into issues and be surprised by them. These two issues in particular. Oh, and Anna, I was going to add some import issues also for some folks. Does that affect? I'm curious how many libraries that affects importing records in the new web client, those issues you were running into.
Libraries that are using OCLC connection, it has to do with the batch processing of those records once they are imported into Evergreen, and basically where it won't it won't work.
So the batch import works. There's no problem with the batch import. What is an issue is if you want to use the mark batch edit, on that import set. So what Anna was doing was making, adding the 999 through the Mark Batch Edit program. And the way that the records are brought in, there's a flag that's set, and anyway, that flag affects the Mark Batch Edit. So it's a specific case. Batch import does work in the web client. So that part's not a problem. It's just the Mark Batch Edit.
Mark Batch Edit. Okay, let me write that down. Make sure that's Mark Batch Edit on import. Okay. As far as printing goes, we're going to address that in these updates that Beth and John were talking about. The 3.1.8, right, and 3.1.9, as I understand, are going to handle printing differently. Right now, it's kind of an extension that gets installed, and that's working for some folks and not for others. And so that's going to be redone so that hopefully we can use our templates that we've put together at our own individual libraries. That's my understanding, right?
I know that 3.2 handles printing differently. I don't know about the updates to 3.1, whether that's included. I'd have to look at the release notes, John, to see if printing is altered with those. I suspect it's not till 3.2.
Okay.
That's what I read as well, that the ability to bypass installing Hatch has been you don't need to install Hatch in 3.2, but they're not going to do it prior to that. So so it should work more smoothly, I think, for everyone at 3.2. But right now, Hatch is working. Some people need to install Hatch, and then people who do install Hatch, for some people it works, and for some people it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. So don't be surprised, and if you're making cataloging in the web client and need to print something, don't be surprised when you run into issues there. I mean, we're still able to print here where I am, but we're just not able to use our customized templates. We're having to use stock boilerplate templates. And then copy alerts. Copy alerts are something that's implemented in the web client, and in the old staff client, you would it was just called an alert message, right? So you check something in or you check something out, and then you would get an alert that popped up that would tell you any number of things, whatever you put in there. Check for disks, check for parts, check out period restrictions or whatever. And so with the latest update that we've done, copy alerts now only appear in the web client, and they do not appear in the staff client. So if you're still using the staff client, which most of us are, and you put in those particular alert messages, or copy alerts as they're now called, you aren't going to see those when you do your checking in or checking out in the staff client. You will in the web client. Beth, did I explain that correctly?
You did.
Okay, I got one.
And the reason that is the case is that they changed and improved the functionality of these alerts and gave them a lot more power or flexibility. And because of that, it was moved to another storage area, let's say, and that's why it's not functioning. The alert messages are still there. All the ones that were created in the past, they were just moved to this new storage area, and that's why they're only functioning correctly in the web client.
So here's something. This is not a typical item by any means. This is one of our younger age activity bags that we have in our system. And you can see in the item details, here are the type of alerts that I'm talking about. This one, for some reason, has 2. I'm not sure why that. Oh, normal check-in and normal checkout. This is one of the things that you can do, is that you can assign certain messages to certain types of check-in or checkout activity, which is handy, definitely. So enough about that. Where are we? We are at 7 minutes early, and that is good for me. Let me just remind everybody, don't forget to go take this poll for me. Currently, we're slated to have our next meeting on the 8th of April. So I'll just kind of open the floor for a couple minutes here. Does anybody have anything that they need to add? I'm looking through the chat here, making sure I didn't miss anything.
John?
Yes,
This
Lori.
is Lori.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just going to say we usually try to get participation from the non-mentors in the meeting. So I would ask them what their experiences have been with the new web client. Are they using it? Do they have any general questions, or what would they like to see us providing as mentors?
Thank you, Lori. Thank you for bringing that up, and I'm happy to type anything down in here if anybody has any questions or something that you'd like to see addressed in a future meeting, or any of the other things Lori said. Does anybody have anything?
It is a little odd, isn't it, that the people that attend these meetings are generally not the ones that might need more training or anything. These all look like great catalogers from the list that I'm seeing. So thank you for listening in on the meetings, Tracy, Lisa, Marcia. That's great.
And thank you for putting up with our audio issues. That was odd. Apologize for that. But nevertheless, we persevered, and it looks like we're going to get out 5 minutes early. So I will go ahead and get this recording converted and send out what I need to send out to the SageCat list. And hopefully we'll get some more folks review this this meeting. And anything else for the good of the cause?
Yeah, just here at Harney County, we're looking forward to some training using the web client up at the circulation desk soon, Beth. So I'd say, regardless of what your poll shows, I would just offer 2 or 3 different drop-ins and see what happens soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and don't get buried by snow. Bye, everyone.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.